welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrielle, and today I will be filming a rant or rave video, which are the book reviews that I do on my channel, if you don't know that. And I think this might be my 5th one, but I don't remember because it's been so long since I've done one. I think it's been like a month at least. It's been more than a month though. Yeah. Thing is, like, I've read a lot of books since then, but only every now and then do I just feel like the urge to really review one. Also, I'm gonna have to wear my glasses for this video. This is just not gonna work. Oh god, no, this is even worse. But I just have to feel like the strong desire to want to talk about that book further, and then I'll do a review for it. Like, it's complicated how I decide which books to review and which ones I just mention in passing. I don't know. No one asked to know all this information. So the book that I'll be reviewing today, as you saw in the title, is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, which I just finished a couple days ago. And let me tell you, if you have not read this book, it was a wild ride. Okay. I fixed the angle on my camera because I wasn't like vibing with where it was, and so I was like, back up. So yeah. But anyway, so if you haven't seen one of these reviews before, I talk about four aspects of the story, and those things are characters, plot, setting, and pacing. And I give a score for each one of those, and at the end I add it all together and do the math, and then you get your overall score, your like average. So without further ado, let's just get into talking about the characters in this book. So for the characters in this book, I'm only going to talk about a couple because every time I do one of these, I always have to like decide exactly how many characters I'm going to talk about, because you could talk about each one, but is that going to really, that's kind of not necessary. So I'm just going to talk about the two main characters, which are Achilles and Patroclus. Also, I'm sorry if I'm not saying Patroclus correctly. I've watched videos on how to pronounce the name, and if I'm still not correct, then I'm sorry. That's how I'll be saying it for the whole video, so I'm sorry if they get nervous. So, I really enjoyed the characters in this book. I felt like they were interesting. I liked the characters. I don't even know what else to say beyond I just liked them. They did what they needed to do for the story, and they were interesting, and they were sometimes morally gray, and they were just all the things that people really typically look for in good characters. Also, there's a water bottle sitting right here because I'm currently drinking it, so sorry. It's not very aesthetically pleasing on the shelf back there, so I'll just move it down here. I feel like they did what they needed to do to be good characters, and I quite enjoyed them. I didn't always agree with the things that they did, but that's part of the reason why I actually like them, because they don't always make, their decisions. One of them in particular sometimes will make a questionable decision. It's just like, but that's what that person would do. I feel like Madeline Miller did a really good job of being like true to the mythology and true to the characters and what they would do in like a real life setting. If you know, like, I don't feel like she tried to stray to go beyond what the character would probably actually do. So for that, I really don't have that much to say about the characters. I liked them. They're not my favorite of all time or anything, but I do like them, and they were good. So that's why I'm rating them a 3.5 and not like 4 or 5, because they were just kind of like the middle of the road, which is when things are a 3, they're kind of hard for me to talk about, because I'm like, yeah, I liked it, but I didn't hate it. Because, you know, when you don't like something, like, you have a lot to say, and when you do like something, you have a lot to say, and then when it's just like in between, you're just like, yeah, good. That's how I feel about the characters. Let's move on to the plot. As for plot, I liked the plot. I thought that it was told, because this is one of the books that's told in like over time, so it's not like this is the time period that this happened. This is like over the course of someone's life. So it's not one of those books where it's just like, okay, in 4 months, this is what happened. These are different stages in life. You follow these characters to war and through childhood and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that the way that, because it's Greek mythology, so it was told like a Greek like mythology story, if that makes any sense, but it was turned into a modern day novel. So the plot had that like almost, and this is gonna sound like a negative thing, but I promise it's not. It had that almost like rambly feel that mythology has, but in a modern day novel way. So if that makes any sense, that's how I felt about the plot, which I enjoyed it. It was interesting. Not at really any point did because part of the reason why the plot was that I think is good is because we kind of know what's going to happen. Like, well, you know, if you've read Greek mythology, you kind of know what's going to happen going in. You kind of have an expectation. There weren't a whole lot of like secrets and epic twists and turns to like catch you off guard. So you feel secure in that. I think that's also what helped the plot feel like it wasn't totally just like, because if you know what I mean, like sometimes mythology or like fairy tales, something like that, they can like get to the point where they feel like they're just doing like this. And it didn't, not at any point. I'm not making any sense today, I swear. So for that, I give this also a 3.5 out of 5 stars on the plot of the story. Now for the third aspect, which is the setting. What more could you want? It's Greek mythology. It's set in that world. It's immersive in that. You never for a second forget that that's where you are. It's realistic because it was kind of a like Greek, ancient Greece. It's a thing. So that helps it feel more real. I've said this on one of these videos before, I think, that when something is real, it's easy to make it feel real. Which that sounds stupid, but like, if you get it, you get like, you don't have to go out of your way to try to invent a whole lot of stuff because it was a thing. So dropping fictional people dropping like fictional people over into something that already exists automatically makes it feel more real because it has like ties to reality, like very strong ties to something that's actually real. So that's why I liked the setting so much. The setting, like, you don't even think too much about it, or at least I didn't, not when I was reading. I did, because it wasn't like a fantasy world, like where the author made that up. Like Prior of the Orange Tree, I thought about the setting while I was reading it constantly because it's a fantasy world and it's something completely from the author's head. And so you just have to think about it throughout, because you have to think about, oh, what does that mean for this person based on the society if something happens. So with this one, I don't feel like I had to do that so much because it's just ancient Greece. Like, I didn't have to think so much about where I was or when I was, just because it's mythology. So for that, because I didn't even have to think about it and it just was, and what I did see was just very immersive. And like, I feel like I was about to give the score, but I have more I want to say. I want to say that like the culture came across very well in the book. Like the way that people held heroes and their gods and stuff to like this standard, and the thought that many of them would rather go down in history than just, they'd rather die young and go down in history than live a long and happier life, because being a hero meant that much to them. That's the kind of thing, like when I say setting, I don't even necessarily mean just the place, just like the setting, like the world, all of it. And I feel like that came across so well, especially in the character of Achilles, because you can kind of see the mental back and forth of like, you know, wanting to be a hero, wanting to be remembered, wanting to go down in history, but also wanting to do things that just give him longevity and that make him happy. But the things that he felt like society had such a push to want to be a hero, and it comes across so clearly in this book. So I think that's one of my favorite aspects of this book, actually. And for that reason, because it was just stellar on every front in that way to me, it got 5 out of 5. I feel like that came across so easy. The culture and the world, it was all just so clear. I loved it. Let's move on to the pacing. The pacing, as I say before I get into this in every single one of these book reviews, I feel like pacing is really difficult to pull off well as a writer. I feel like you have to really think about how fast and how slow things are going, or you're going to have that like jerky thing where, you know, you have a lot of this going on, which that can come across as just really, really awkward to read. So I don't feel like this book did that at all. I feel like it had like a pretty steady incline toward the top. I will say though, it did something in the middle. I've never heard anyone else say this, so this is just me. So if you're looking to read this book and like you're excited about it and like pacing's important to you at all, like you don't want to get to, I feel like it dragged in the middle, but like I haven't heard anyone else say that. So basically what I'm saying is, if you want to read this and that sounds concerning, like just scratch what I just said. I haven't heard anyone else say that. Maybe it was just me, because I was kind of going through like a little tiny reading slump kind of toward the middle, and that's right where I felt like it was dragging. So that's probably what was going on. It was probably more me than the book, but it was at the same time very annoying. So even though it was steadily working toward that climax of like, you knew how the story was going to end, you knew where it was going, like you knew it was going up there somewhere, yeah, I still feel like it kind of like just like dragged quite a bit. Like I want to say 50 to 100 pages in the middle. I was just kind of like, But then it got back on track and then I was like, okay, fine, this is great. So because of that little lapse in the middle, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars and not 4 and not 5. But 3 is still not bad. It was just like, had that not happened, I feel like I would have liked this book a lot more than I actually did. So after averaging all that together, that leaves us with an overall score of 3.75. But I just decided to round it up because like 3.75. So it's just 3.8. So I give this book a 3.8. But on Goodreads, I think I'm gonna go ahead and round that up to a 4 because that's just too close to a 4 to like not do that. So yeah, 4 stars. What a wonderful read. I'm glad that I read it. If you're thinking about reading it, I totally recommend it, especially since I'm saying like literally disregard what I said about pacing. I think that was more me than the book. I haven't heard a single, I mean, I'm sure you could find one if you really wanted to, but I haven't heard a single bad review on this book. It's just, if you like Greek mythology and if you like retellings of any kind, whether it's Greek mythology or fairy tales or anything, I feel like this is a good book to read. And if you're looking to get into this kind of thing, I feel like this is a good place to start. And also, if you're into that, you should read Circe because Circe is like just as good as this book. Like literally, I think I gave them both 4 stars. They're both really good. Same author, Greek mythology. Like if you love Circe, you're probably gonna love this. If you love this, you're probably gonna love Circe. They're just both that really good. Even though I think I might have liked this one just a tad bit more. I think just like a tad bit more, just because this book was so emotional, and that's one thing I couldn't really talk about. I don't feel like I didn't talk about. I guess I could have within their like review section of the video, but I just feel like it was so emotional, and I love books that are like emotion driven, and they're just like, I feel for the characters, and I want everything to work out okay for them, and I just have all these emotions. I cried at the end of this book because that's how emotional it was. Of course, I cry at the end of every book, like literally, I cry at everything. But I'm just saying, like that's how emotional it was. It was very emotion driven, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people really like that book, because it sticks with them, because it made them feel so much, because people remember what moves them. So yeah, that will conclude my book review on The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And again, I cannot recommend this enough. You should totally read it. Goodbye. Yeah, they are, I'm not in the filming mood. I don't even know how to talk. Okay, just like rein it in.